The morning of the reading ceremony, I am up before the bells. The east windows of my apartment face the lower courtyard, and from my bed I watch the highland stone go from blue to gray to amber as the sun finds its way through the mist. My ceremonial uniform is laid out on the long bench where Tana left it before she went to her own chambers last night. The iron-gray overrobe of an apprentice archivist, the simple white linen beneath, the heir's circlet of old bronze. I dress slowly. There is no maid this morning by request. I do not want to be touched before I speak. When the bells go, I am already at the window. They sound long, 3 slow ones in the high voice, then a pause, then a short, bright one. Reading bells. I have heard them my whole life, only as a record. Once a generation, the heir reads the veiled genealogy aloud in the full court. My great-grandmother read it. My grandmother did not. She was in exile when her time came. The court read in her absence and crowned a regent in her name, and my mother and her brothers were not yet born. When my grandmother returned, 14 years ago, she did not have her reading. She walked to the throne, sat down, and ruled. There was no time for ceremony, she said. There were taxes to fix. This morning the court has its ceremony anyway, through me. I drink the cup of warm cherry grass my grandmother sends up the back stairs every morning of an important day. She does not write a note. She never has. The cup itself is the note. I dress, I cross the cold floor in my soft court boots. I pin the circlet in place. In the bronze mirror that hangs by the door, my face is younger than I would like it to be. 14 is not a child here. 14 is what my mother was when she signed her first writ. 14 is what my grandmother was when she joined the archivists. The face in the mirror knows this. The face does not feel ready. I do not need to feel ready. I need to read. Master Yaver waits for me in the lower archive room. He is small and sun-spotted and wears the green band of a reader of record below his white sleeve. He has taught me to read in the high veil for the last 2 winters. He has taught me how to hold a scroll case open with the soft pads of my fingers, so the parchment lifts without the smell of skin getting on it. He has taught me what a careful court sounds like when a careful word is spoken. He bows when I come in. He does not speak yet. He hands me a small folded square of uninked linen and a thin iron stylus. The linen is for my hands. The stylus is for unrolling the bottom of the scroll when it sticks. He has never failed to give me both. Master, I say. Heir, he says. I look at the workbench. The reading scroll is here in its case. The case is dark wood banded in copper. It has been in our family for 9 generations. It is older than the unified Vale Accord. It is older than the Sothamiri strike. It is older, my tutor says, than the word for queen. The case has cracked twice in living memory. Both times the same line of restorers has mended it. Once when my grandmother was a child. Once last summer, when the case was opened for inspection and found split along the back grain. The first repair was done by a man named Yaron of Velmora. The second was done by his son. I look at the case. I have looked at it before, but today I look at it for the first time the way an heir looks at an object that has held her line together. The repair seams are so fine they are nearly invisible. Whoever did the work knew the wood the way another person knows their own breath. Has Master Velmora come up? I ask, not looking at Yaver. He has been at the case since the 3rd hour, heir. He has gone to the wings to wait. He doesn't want to be in the room. Yaver looks down. He never asks to be in the room, heir. He has a chair against the south wall where he sits if there is reading. He listens. He listens, heir. Yaver looks up. His eyes are old and very gentle, and they have known my grandmother for 60 years. He has always listened. I do not ask anything else. I walk with Yaver through the lower corridor to the long passage that leads to the throne hall. I do not need a guide. I have walked this corridor every morning for 2 years. But it is proper for me to walk with my tutor on a reading day, and I am glad of his presence beside me. He keeps to my left, half a step back. He does not speak. The corridor is narrow, and the light is the cold, pale gray of an upland morning. We pass the small alcove where the candle-keepers store their boxes. We pass the long bench where the household stewards take their early meal. The bench is empty today. Everyone is in the throne hall waiting. The household is hushed in the way the household goes hushed when something is to happen that no one knows the shape of in advance. I think about Master Velmora. I have known him since I was old enough to know a name. He was the man who fixed my wooden hawk when I was 6 and broke its wing throwing it down the gallery stairs. My mother was alive then. She brought the hawk to him and apologized for my carelessness, and he did not look at her. He looked at the hawk. He turned it over in his weathered hands and he said, "It is a kind break, heir. It will mend cleaner than it was." It did. I have the hawk still. He put a peg through the wing of palace cedar, and the peg is invisible unless you look for it. He was older than my mother. He was younger than my grandmother. He was, even then, a quiet, weathered man with steady hands and a calm face that did not betray what it was looking at. He has been at the palace, I now realize, longer than I have been alive. Longer than my mother had been alive when she gave him my hawk. Longer than anyone has thought to count. I do not know his age. I have never asked. He is the man who is always here. He is the man who steps out of a side passage with a tray of tools and a roll of brown thread and disappears again into a side passage when the work is done. He has fixed the chair my grandmother sits in. He has restored the panel above the long balcony. He has mended the seal of the veil that hangs above the throne, the dark iron seal with the 4 lines that mean the 4 mountains. He restored it 3 years ago after a hairline crack was found in the lower line. He restored it without being told to. He noticed the crack while he was working on something else. He came back the next morning with the right tools and made the seal whole. This is the man who is sitting in the back of the throne hall today. In a chair I imagine is simple wood, a chair that he himself probably built. Listening. We reach the door of the throne hall, and Yaver stops me with the gentlest touch on my sleeve. "You will read," he says, "every line." I look at him. It is not an instruction. It is a permission. "Every line, master." "Yes, heir." He bows me through. The throne hall of the High Court of Ossivar is the longest interior space in the Vale Accord. The roof beams are old pine, the floor is cut from a single quarry in the central range, and the daylight comes in through tall, narrow windows along the south wall, 14 of them, one for each founding house. The windows do not have glass. The wind comes through them. In summer it is sweet with grass. In winter it bites. Today it is cool and dry, and the sun lies across the floor in 14 long bright bars. The full court is assembled. I walk in slow because slow is correct. The lords and seconded ministers stand in 2 long lines along the central aisle. They are dressed in their house colors. The northern lords are in slate, the coastal lords are in dark blue, the eastern lords are in bronze and umber. The 3 free ridings are in plain, undyed wool which they wear at court for emphasis. The seconded ministers wear iron gray like me. They are nominally the chancellor's people. I do not look at them. I look at the throne. My grandmother is on the throne. She is small. She has always been small. The throne is large because the throne is meant for the dynasty, not the body. Her hands rest on the arms of the chair the way her hands always rest, palms down, fingers spread, not gripping. Her white hair is bound back with the same plain copper band she has worn for 30 years, and in the band is the single line of original copper from her own youth, kept and reset when she returned from exile. The band has a single line of green stones at the temple, and the green stones are the only color on her at this hour. She wears the dark gray ceremonial robe of the reading court. She wears no crown. The reading is the heir's day. The crown is in its case beside her. Behind her stands Chancellor Corvin. I have known him since I was old enough to know a name as well. He is tall and lean, and he wears the deep maroon of the Chancellor's office. His beard is short and gray-shot. His face is well arranged. He has, in fairness to him, been good to me as a child. He told me my first joke about a slow horse. He assigned many writs that have improved the household and have, in one or two cases I have read about in the archive, prevented small useful improvements that the Queen had asked for. He is not a kind man. He is not a cruel man. He is a careful man, and the careful men are the ones the archive notices. I walk to the dais. I bow to my grandmother. She inclines her head. I straighten. I walk to the small reading lectern that has been set 5 paces in front of the dais. It is plain stone with a copper-rimmed cradle for the scroll. I see, without looking at him directly, that Master Voer is at the back of the hall, in his quiet chair, against the south wall where the windows do not reach. Yaver has come in behind me with the scroll case. He places it on the cradle. He bows to the Queen. He steps back. Chancellor Corvin comes down from the dais. He comes in his careful, long stride. He stops at the lectern. He gives me the small grave nod that is half blessing and half instruction. He puts his hand on the case and turns the latch with the small soft sound it makes. He opens the case. The scroll inside is the color of old ivory, and the iron filaments running through it catch what little light reaches the lectern. He lifts it with his careful hands and lays it in the cradle. He smooths the upper edge with the side of his thumb. He looks at me. "Read clearly, heir," he says, in the low formal voice that means he is now in the role of council chancellor and not Corvin. "Read the first stanza, the second stanza. The third stanza is long. Skip from the third stanza if you find it grows difficult. The court does not need every line." I look at him. He looks back at me. There is nothing in his face but the careful blank surface he wears in this hall. I think of Yaver's voice, every line. I think of my grandmother's eyes, which I cannot see directly but can feel resting on the chancellor's back. I think of Merit of Voer in his chair against the south wall, listening. "Thank you, Chancellor," I say in the formal cadence. He bows half an inch. He returns to his place behind the throne. I look down at the scroll. I take the iron stylus and lift the bottom edge gently. I take the linen and dab my hands. I steady my breath the way Yaver taught me, through the nose, into the back of the throat, out long. I begin to read. The first stanza is the founding line. I know it by ear. In the days when the 4 mountains had not been counted, the 4 houses came down from them. The first to set her foot in the river valley was Erathan of Sov. The second was Mevera of Adun. The third was Yorin of the western ridges. The fourth was Alesia of the lakes. I read it slowly. I read it the way Yaver taught me, without performance, without rush, the way a careful person reads a document she respects. The court is silent. Somewhere along the second long sentence, I hear my grandmother breathe out. Just once. The small, soft sound of a person who has been holding herself in shape for a while. The second stanza is the consort line. This is the line that names every consort of every queen since the founding. It is long, but it goes in a measured rhythm, and I have practiced it for 2 winters. Of Erathan, Senra of Holt. Of Mevera, Yale of Tarn. Of Yorin, Orin of the steppe. Of Alesia, the unnamed of the western shore. On and on. The line goes through the early queens, the middle queens, the queens of the Sothamiri War, the recovery queens. The pattern of it is comforting. The pattern is the dynasty. I can feel the court settling into it. The lord's shoulders relax. The chancellor, I can see him in my peripheral vision now, folds his hands at his belt. He thinks the second stanza is going well. The second stanza is going well. I reach the queens who reigned in my grandmother's mother's generation. I read those consorts. The names are familiar. They are the names of the senior houses. Senri of Adun, Vale Senri, the chancellor's own great uncle by marriage. He cannot help it. His shoulders lift half an inch when the name is read. He is proud of it. He is allowed to be. I reach the third stanza. The third stanza is the long one. The third stanza is the consort line of my grandmother's generation. The consorts of the 4 queens who ruled during the Sothamiri strike 43 years ago. The strike was a foreign action. The southern Sothamiri fleet came up the coastal corridor and struck the central archive of the Accord. 3 queens were killed. The 4th was my grandmother's mother. She was the one who held the line. My grandmother was a young archivist then. She was here in this hall. She was 19. The 3rd stanza begins. Of the holding queen, in her young years, the consort of record was Yaren of Voer. The hall does not move. The chancellor is too well arranged to flinch, but something in the air shifts. I cannot describe it the way an archivist would describe it. I can describe it the way a 14-year-old describes what happens in a room when a sentence is read out that was not supposed to be read. The cherrygrass cup I drank this morning settles, hot, behind my breastbone. I continue. He was the restorer of the long vault. He mended the veil seal after the strike. He set the lower line and the upper line, and he did this in the year that the holding queen was acting queen. His hands were the hands that held the dynasty's mark in those years. He was named at the hall of returning. He stood in the place of consort by the acting queen for 2 years and 4 months. The chancellor has not moved. My grandmother's hand on the throne arm lifts. It is the smallest motion. It goes to her mouth. The court does not see it. The court is looking at me. I keep reading. In the 3rd year, after the strike was ended, the council of the time struck the name of Yaren of Voer from the consort register, by writ of the standing chancellor of the time, on grounds not specified in the public record. The line of Voer was preserved in this archive by order of the acting queen, against a day when the record should be restored. The court is now still in a way that I have only read about in old descriptions of the High Hall, the kind of still that comes when a sentence is being followed by every ear in the room, and the next sentence has not yet come. Chancellor Corvin steps forward. He does not raise his voice. He simply takes 1 step toward the lectern. Heir, he says. My grandmother lifts her hand. She does not turn to him. She does not look at him. She raises her right hand from the throne arm and holds it palm out, the smallest distance from her body. It is enough. Corvin stops. She lowers her hand. I read on. The line of Voer is preserved in this archive against a day. The acting queen, before her death, restored the name of Yaren of Voer to the inner record of the reading scroll, and ordered that her successor, on her reading day, should read the inner record in full. This is the inner record. My voice does not shake. I am surprised. I think distantly that I will think about this later, that I will be surprised later in private. Now I am reading. Yaren of Voer, of the mountain town of Eshen, born in the 11th year of the reign of the holding queen's mother, apprentice to the restorers at the age of 14, master of his guild by 22, restorer of the veil seal in the year of the strike, husband of record to the acting queen Aravir Asen Vale in the 3rd year after the strike, removed by writ in the 5th year, permitted to remain in the household as a craftsman of the 2nd household by silent dispensation of the queen, died in the 12th year after the strike, buried at the foot of the long stair at his own request, where he had laid the first stone of the 2nd household, his name to be returned to the consort register on the first reading after the queen's return from exile. I take a small breath. I do not look up. He had 1 son, named in his honor of the line of Voer, Marit of Voer, apprentice to the restorers at the age of 12, master of his guild by 24, restorer of the veil seal in the 22nd year after the strike, when the lower line cracked a 2nd time, restorer of the reading scroll case in the 28th year, restorer of the long vault gate in the 31st year, quiet keeper of the 2nd household, continues. The word continues sits on the air. I close the inner record at the end of that line, because that is the end of the line. I do not look up yet. I look at the lectern stone. I look at the iron stylus laid neatly beside the cradle. I look at the small, bright pool of southern daylight that has crept across the lectern in the time I have been reading. I look up. The court is utterly still. The chancellor's face is no longer well arranged. It is the face of a man whose careful work has been opened up. It is not anger. It is the slow, blank look of a man calculating what has just happened and what cannot now be undone. I do not look at him long. I look at my grandmother. She has not moved her hand from her mouth. Her eyes are open. They are clear. They are not wet in the way I had imagined the eyes of an elder reader of the reading scroll might be in my reading of old descriptions. They are wet in a deeper way, wet the way a stone is wet when a river has run over it for a long time and the wetness has gone into the stone and is part of it. Her hand on her mouth is the steadier hand. Her other hand on the thrown arm trembles once, just once, then it stills. She rises. She does not rise with effort. She rises the way an old woman rises who has been waiting a long time to rise. The throne is large, but she does not lean on it. She steps down from the dais. The first step is the deep one. The second and third are shallow. Her court boots are quiet on the stone. She walks down the central aisle. I want very much to step aside as she passes the lectern. I do not. The lectern is the heir's place at a reading, and she has not dismissed me from it. I keep my hands on the cradle of the scroll. I keep my eyes lowered to her as she comes by. She does not look at me. She looks down the hall. She walks past the lectern. She walks past the chancellor. She does not turn her head. She walks past the long line of lords in their slate and blue and bronze and undyed wool. She walks the full length of the hall. The court does not move. The court has been told no instruction. The court only watches. She reaches the back. Narrated is in his chair. I cannot see him fully from the lectern, but I can see the shape of him rise. He stands the way a man stands when the queen has come to his chair, slowly, carefully, without flourish. He places one weathered hand on the back of the chair. He lowers his head. He does not kneel. The line of his back is straight in the upright way of an old craftsman whose body has paid for 40 years of careful labor. My grandmother stops in front of him. She reaches out her hand, the hand that was on her mouth. She places it over his hand on the back of the chair. She does not speak yet. The hall is so still that even at the lectern I can hear the small sound of her breath going in and out. Then she speaks. She does not speak loudly. She speaks in the high veil, the old form, the one she speaks only when she means a thing to be entered into the record. The court hears her clearly because the hall has been built to carry her voice. Narrated, the reading is your reading. The record opens to you. The household sees you. Welcome back to the record. The phrase "welcome back to the record" is a phrase from the inner ceremony. It is the phrase by which an exiled name is returned. I have read about it. I have never heard it spoken. I had thought it was a phrase for tax judgments and the rehabilitation of houses that had fallen out of favor. I had not thought it was a phrase a queen could say to a man whose name had been struck from the consort register before she returned from her own exile, in a hall where she has just heard her father's name read in full. Narrated lifts his head. He does not speak. His face is the face I have known since I was 6. It is weathered. It is composed. It is the face of a man who fixes things and who does not make a sound while he is fixing them. The face is changed slightly now. Around the eyes there is a small visible softness that was not there before. The mouth, which usually rests at a steady neutral line, has gone very still in the way a steady line goes when the man behind it is concentrating on holding it still. He does not weep. He is not a man who would weep at the front of a hall. But his eyes are wet. He looks at my grandmother. She looks at him. They look at each other for what is, by the count of the wall pendulum, 11 seconds. She nods once. He nods once. She does not let go of his hand. She turns, with her hand still on his hand, to face the hall. "Heir," she says. Her voice is the voice she uses at court, the small clear voice that I have heard her use at council. Close the scroll. I do. I lay the upper edge of the scroll down softly with the small soft sound of parchment settling. I lift the iron stylus away. I take the linen and dab my hands. I step back from the lectern. Chancellor Corvin. The chancellor straightens. He had not moved from his step toward the lectern. Approach. He walks toward her down the length of the hall. He walks well. He has been a chancellor a long time, and the body remembers the walk even when the mind has been opened up by something it did not expect. He stops 6 paces from her. He does not look at Merit. He cannot quite look at her either. He looks just past her shoulder at the south wall. Chancellor Corvin, she says, the reading is concluded. The inner record has been entered into the public hearing of the court. The name of Yaron of Voer is returned to the consort register, effective today. The name of Merit of Voer is added to the register of the second household with the rank of restorer of record, effective today. The reading scroll's inner record will be transcribed into the public reading scroll by the master of the archive within the season. She pauses. The writ of the 3rd year after the strike, by which the name of Yaron of Voer was struck from the consort register, is hereby vacated. The chancellor who signed that writ is dead. He cannot answer for it. The chancellor who has, in the years since, refused to bring the inner record forward at any reading, including the reading I did not have, 14 years ago, when I returned from exile and was told that there was no time for ceremony, answers now. I see Corvin's hand twitch once at his side. He has noticed his name has been named, without being named, and that he has been named at the only reading he will hear in his lifetime as chancellor. My grandmother's voice does not change. Chancellor Corvin, you have served the council for 26 years. You have served 3 queens. You have signed writs that have, in the main, kept the dynasty whole. I do not strike you from any register, but you will not stand behind the throne after today. The chancellor's office will pass to your second, heir of a dun, by the end of the day. You will retain your seat on the council as counselor emeritus. You will not speak in council on any matter touching the registry, the archive, or the second household for the rest of your time. You will not enter the reading scroll's case room without the master of the archive present. Do you understand? He breathes once. He looks past her shoulder still. He says, I understand, Queen Mother. Step aside. He steps aside. She does not look at him further. She turns slightly, so that the court can see Merit of Voer over her shoulder. Master Voer, she says in the same small, clear voice, the court has heard your father's name in this hall today for the first time in 43 years. The court has heard your own name added to the register. You have not asked for either. You will not ask for either. I know you. I have known you my whole life. You will not ask for anything from this hall, so I will ask on behalf of the household. She pauses. Stay. It is one word. The hall hears it. Merit of Voer inclines his head, the smallest motion. He does not speak. He does not need to. The face I have known since I was 6 does the work. He stays. My grandmother holds his hand for a moment longer. Then she lets it go. She turns and walks back down the length of the hall. She walks slowly. She walks the way she came. She does not look at the lords as she passes them. They lower their heads as she goes by, slate, blue, bronze, undyed wool. The undyed wool of the 3 free ridings is the lowest. They are the oldest houses, the ones who hold no land for themselves. They lower their heads further than the others. She reaches the dais. She climbs the 3 steps. The deep one first, the shallow ones after. She takes the throne. She places her hands palm down on the arms of the chair, fingers spread, not gripping. She looks at me at the lectern. Heir, she says, return the scroll to the case, seal it, Master Yaver. Yaver steps up beside me. He bows. He helps me roll the scroll. He helps me seat it in the case. He locks the case with the small soft sound it makes. He bows to me again. I return the bow with the small head incline that has been correct between an apprentice and her tutor since I was 12. The court remains. My grandmother says in the public voice now, the reading is concluded. The lords may withdraw. The court withdraws. They move in their long, careful rows. They go in the order proper to a reading, the 3 free ridings first, then the eastern lords, then the coastal, then the northern. The seconded ministers go last. Corvin goes with them. He does not look back. The chair against the south wall, where the windows do not reach, has merit of voer in it again. He has not moved from his chair since my grandmother let go of his hand. He sits and watches the court go by. The lords, as they pass him, do something I will think about for the rest of my life. They slow. Each one slows for half a step as he passes Marit's chair. He does not look up. They do not bow. They do not nod. But they slow. Slate, blue, bronze, undyed wool. They have all seen the small motion of the Queen's hand over his hand. They are noting in their bodies what they have seen. The hall empties. Marit of Voer is still in his chair. My grandmother is on the throne. I am at the lectern. Yaver is half a step behind me with the case. The southern daylight has moved. The bright bars on the floor are longer now. The mist is gone from the upland. My grandmother looks at me. Her hand on the throne arm trembles once, then stills. Heir, she says in the small private voice, walk back to the chair, sit with him. I look at her. I do not know if she means me to sit with Marit of Voer now. I have not been sat with him before. I have only been at his elbow as a child with the broken hawk. But I understand what she is asking. The court has gone. The reading is done. She is the queen, and she cannot leave the throne yet. The hall must not be empty around the man, whose name has been read for the first time in 43 years. Yes, Queen Mother. I leave the lectern. Yaver takes the case. I walk down the central aisle. I walk the way she walked. I walk slowly. I walk the full length of the hall. I reach the chair. Marit of Voer looks up. He does not stand. He does not need to stand for a 14-year-old heir, and I am glad. I would not have wanted him to stand. Heir, he says. His voice is quiet, but it is steady. It is the voice he used when I was 6, when he turned the broken hawk in his weathered hands. Master. You read every line. Yes, master. He nods. Sit if you would. There is no chair next to him. He had a chair only for himself. He sees this when I look around. He looks past me at the south wall, at where another chair stands against the wall. He gestures with his chin. I walk to the wall. The chair is plain wood. It is heavier than I expected. I drag it back to his chair, the small soft sound of wood on stone. I do not slide it noisily. I am the heir. I drag with care. I set it next to him. I sit. We sit for a long, quiet moment in the back of the hall and look at the throne at the far end, where my grandmother is sitting alone with her hands palmed down on the chair arms. She used to sit with my father in this same place when she was younger than you, he says. In this hall. In this hall, when the reading scroll was first put into this case. He had restored it that summer. She came down from the dais and sat with him in 2 plain chairs. And the court. The court was not in the hall at that hour. The court had gone home. It was after the day. He used to come back at evening and check his repairs while the light was still in the south windows. She would come down and sit. For how long? For a long time, years. I look at him. Master Voer. Heir. I am sorry your father was struck. He looks at me. The face is steady. The eyes are still wet, but the wetness has settled into the lines of his face, the way the wetness settled into my grandmother's. It is not your sorry heir, he says. Your great-grandmother held the line through the strike. Your grandmother sat with my father when the council had taken his name. They neither of them ever asked me to be ashamed of him. I have not been. I have only been quiet. Quiet for 43 years. For 43 years, quiet is not nothing, heir. Quiet is the way some things are held, not all things, but some. I do not have an answer for this. I am 14, and I have not yet held anything for 43 years. He sees this in my face. He does not laugh, but the line of his mouth eases. You will, he says. You will hold some things quietly. It is part of the work. We sit for some time longer in the back of the hall. I look at the seal above the throne, the dark iron seal with the 4 lines. From here at the back wall I can see the lower line where the hairline crack ran. It is not visible from any other place in the hall. From here it is the smallest difference, a finer dark, where his hands closed it. He restored it without being told to. He noticed the crack while he was working on something else. The seal is whole. The dynasty's mark is whole. The hands that closed it have been quiet in this hall for 40 years. I look at his hands now. They are folded on his knees. The knuckles are large. The skin is brown and lined and shows the small old marks of cuts that healed cleanly. There is a small dark stain at the side of the right thumb that I think will not come off. Cedar resin, maybe. He has worked cedar all my life, and the resin has gone into his thumb. I think, and I will not say this aloud because there is no need, that the dynasty has been held together by these hands, by these specific hands, by the small dark stain at the side of the thumb. The chancellor signed writs. The lords held land. The queen sat the throne. But the seal, the case, the chair, the panel, the lectern, all of it that the dynasty looks at and calls itself by, was held in place by this man and his father before him. This is what I have learned today. This is what I will not forget. After a while my grandmother makes the small motion with her hand that means I may rise. I rise. I do not say anything. I bow to Master Voer, the small heir's bow half-angle. He inclines his head. I walk the length of the hall back to the dais. I climb the 3 steps. The deep one first, the shallow ones after. I stand at her right. She does not look at me. She is still looking down the hall at Narrated Voer in his chair. He used to come back at evening, she says, quietly, to check his repairs while the light was still in the south windows. I used to come down and sit with him. He told me. Did he? Yes. She is quiet for a while. He has fixed every important thing in this hall in the last 20 years, she says. Everyone, the seal, the case, the vault gate, the chair he is sitting in, the chair you brought from the wall, the lectern you read from, the candle alcove, the bench in the lower corridor where the household stewards take their meal. He has done all of it. None of it has had his name on it. None of it will ever need his name on it. He does not want his name on it. No, Queen Mother. But the dynasty will know. Yes, Queen Mother. She is quiet again. He stayed. Yes, Queen Mother. In the years I was in exile, he stayed. He could have gone. He could have done his work elsewhere. He stayed. Yes, Queen Mother. He stayed because he is the line of Voer, and because the second household needed a restorer of record, even if there was no chancellor who would name him one, and because my father had told him, when he was a young apprentice, that some things you do not do for the chancellor. I look at her. Her face is composed. The wetness is gone from the eyes. It has gone the way her wetness has always gone, back into her face, into the lines and into the stone. Heir. Queen Mother. You read every line. Yes, Queen Mother. You did this knowing the chancellor asked you to skip the 3rd stanza. Yes, Queen Mother. Why? I think. Because Master Yaver said every line. Because I knew you were waiting. Because I saw Master Voer in the back of the hall and I knew the case had been restored by his hands, and the seal had been restored by his hands, and the chancellor had not given him a chair beside the dais, but he had built his own and sat in it for 40 years. And I thought, if I do not read his name today, no heir will read it, and then it will not be there to read. And he will have fixed everything in this hall, and his name will not be in the hall. She nods. She does not say anything more for a moment. Then she says, "You will be a good queen, Safari." I think about this. I look down the hall. Narrated Voer is rising slowly from his chair. The south windows have moved further across the floor. The bars of bright daylight are long, almost touching his boots. "I do not know yet," I say. "No," she says, "you do not yet, but I do." We stand together at the dais. My grandmother and I down the hall. Narrated Voer lifts his chair and carries it back to the south wall where it has always sat. He returns to his own chair. He sits. He looks up at the seal above the throne, which he restored 3 years ago after the hairline crack was found in the lower line. The seal looks unbroken. It looks as it was made. He looks at it for a long, quiet moment. Then he looks at my grandmother. She inclines her head. He inclines his. The small private motion that requires no words and no ceremony and no register and no writ. A motion that has, I now understand, been passing between them every evening in this hall for many years that no one was meant to see. I will be a queen who reads every line. I close my eyes for one quiet moment, then I open them. The hall is full of bright daylight. The south windows are open to the upland air. The close of the reading bells has not gone yet, the small bright ones, the 4, but Yaver has gone to the bell house and they will come in their proper time. I take my place beside my grandmother and wait for the bells.